Hello, y'all. All right. So let me quickly switch over to my slides. I know y'all can see it, but I'm on a different one. So I'm so excited to be here at You Got This conference. Today I'm going to be talking about what it really means to learn in public. So first, I have a little audience interaction for y'all. Feel free to type your answer in the chat or just reflect on your own when you think of your first encounter with the concept of learning in public, was it tech related? And I asked this question to myself earlier on, and at first I was saying, yeah, like that's like the first place I heard of it. But actually, the first time that I saw it being done really was from like beauty influencers. I think they were the pioneers for learning in public, although they may not have like coined the term or referred to it as learning in public, and they may not have even known they were learning in public. I think they were, right? For example, a lot of them were like doing videos on like figuring out how to grow my hair longer, figuring out how to do like winged eyeliner and stuff like that. As a 11-year-old, I was eating that up. I was like, yes, I love this content. But they were some of the first people that I saw blogging or creating videos around learning in public, or as they were learning in public. And Michelle Phan is actually like one of the first beauty influencers, and she is like a really good example of this. She was like an early adopter of YouTube. In May 2007, I think she posted her first video saying natural looking makeup tutorial, and this was after she was rejected from her a job at Lancome. Years later, well, 2 weeks later, her video amassed like 100,000 views. And years later, she actually became the first Vietnamese American spokesperson for Lancome, which I think is kind of funny. She became a business owner, a multimillionaire, and like now she really knows how to do makeup pretty well, just as some of the other beauty influencers and just as some other content creators. So yeah, I think beauty influencers kind of walked so content creators could fly, in addition to other industries like maybe chefs and comedians and all these other people took to the internet to show themselves learning in public. And I think beauty influencers kind of created the format for how to do it, without even knowing. I think they set the stage or paved the way. Um, and so, yeah, that kind of entered or created this creator economy where people who were just everyday people felt okay with like sharing parts of their lives on the internet so other people can learn through them while they learn. And then also, I want to give a shout out to Sean Wang, aka Swix. I think he coined the term learning in public. He has a ton of blog posts and articles around that and a couple of talks around like why it's important for software engineers to learn in public. And I think he kind of set it off within the tech industry for it to be popularized and it to be embraced. So before I go any deeper, I'll like introduce myself. I love the introduction that Tui gave for me, but I'll do a little bit more. So my name's Rizèl. I'm a junior developer advocate at GitHub. Prior to that, I was a software engineer at various startups. I am an advisor at an organization called G Code House, which teaches women of color and non-binary people of color to code. I'm super passionate about empowering others through tech and educating them, and I'm like a little addicted to social media. So if you wanted to connect with me, you can. My handle is Black Girl Bites on almost every single social media platform except for Twitch. On Twitch, I'm Black Girl Bites One because I forgot my password to Black Girl Bites, so I had to make a new account. All right. So here's what we're going to go over. We're going to talk about what is learning in public. We're going to talk about the fears around learning in public, the benefits, how to do it, and then a little bit of like what not to do. So let's answer that first question. What is learning in public? And I think fundamentally, it's just sharing your learnings on the internet. And while it sounds simple, sometimes it can be a little bit hard and scary. I know, like, some fears that people have, including myself, is like, I'm not an expert. Who am I to go on the internet and show myself doing something when I don't even feel like I know it that well? But the positive thing, the benefit is that the key of learning in public is that you're just learning. It's not about expertise or perfection, and being wrong is part of learning. So it's okay to not be an expert. That's like kind of the whole point, is you genuinely learning and people learning alongside you. Okay. The other thing is like it's scary. Yeah, it is. But you can choose to stay scared or you can face your fear and reap some of the benefits of learning in public, just such as like improving your own skill sets, gaining a larger network, and then building a stronger portfolio as well. And you might also say, I'm not ready to share my work. I'll do it when it's complete, when it's perfect, when it's polished. But will it ever be perfect? Will it ever be where you want it to be? I think perfection is the enemy of progress because then you're like wondering about these little small details, right? And you don't want to wait until you achieve perfection because by the time that you put out like whatever project it is, people are less invested in it. People get invested when they're like, oh, there's whatever their name is. I can't think of a name off the top of my head. Let's say Tom. There's Tom learning HTML. Now Tom's doing CSS animations. That's awesome. Now Tom's doing like Node.js or some backend thing. So I think them getting invested in that journey will really help you to gain the benefits of learning in public. And then another argument is you can say, I don't need to, right? Like I'm a software engineer. Like why do I need to become a tech content creator? It's true, you don't need to, but it is beneficial in helping you to build your brand. Like building your brand through learning in public, in my opinion, is one of the most genuine ways that you can do self advocacy. Like instead of you bragging and being like, oh, I built something like that before, da 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 da, you have the proof there on the internet of different projects you've made and the progress that you've made over time. I'll talk a little bit more about some benefits. There's this quote that says, to teach is to learn twice. And I really like this quote because I think it's so true. By you teaching, it helps to reinforce your learning because you're trying to break it down for other people to learn as well. And I think forms of learning in public help you to do that. I in middle school and high school, instead of studying, I would like tutor my friends while they studied, and that helped me to be like, I got it because I know how to explain it to somebody, so I'll be able to take this test and do a good job. Um, Again, I'm going over like the facing of your fears and being scared. I understand being scared. I'm such a little scaredy cat, but my approach is sometimes admitting that I'm scared, right? Like if I'm going to go do a talk in public speak, I'll be like, hey, y'all, I'm nervous. I never did this before. And me saying that kind of, in my mind, lowers the barrier of like this perfection that I thought I had to achieve. And then it also helps the audience like give me a little bit more support if I make a mistake. They'll be like, it's okay, you got this. And that makes me feel good. On that topic of support and community and audience, right? Building community through learning in public is really a great motivator. At least it has been for me. Sometimes when I'm learning something on my own, I'll decide, I don't feel like doing it today, or I'm going to quit, whatever. But when you have that community support, it makes you keep coming back. There's times where I'm like, I don't really want to stream today. And then I'll get a message from somebody that says, hey, I look forward to your streams every Friday. I learn so much. And then I'm like, you know what? I have to stream today because they're looking forward to it. I got to do it. So it helps when you want to quit. It's almost like, working out where maybe at the gym you might go a little bit slower, but if you're in a group fitness class, you gotta keep up. And it also helps you to take control of your career. As I mentioned before, with like self advocacy, I think it helps you to take the direction that you need to take for your career. A lot of times we say, you know what, I'm a good engineer, someone's going to find me. But if you put your content out there, it'll make it easier for them to find you and easier for you to not just have to wait for a promotion to get to the next step. You take control of the direction that you want your career to go into. A good example of that is one of my old managers, Brian Douglas. He was a software engineer, he was a developer advocate, and through all of that, he learned in public to the point that he was able to take his open source project and turn it into a startup, which was his dream. And he was able to take control of his career in that way rather than waiting for his manager to tell him which route to go. All right, so quickly, I'll just show you all my journey of learning in public that's still in progress. I started by like teaching groups on Zoom about like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Felt comfortable for me because I was with other women of color, people who are like me, and I wasn't exposed to the rest of the world. It helped me to learn, like, how do I break things down to people? How do I communicate? What's my style of teaching and breaking things down? Then I started blogging a little bit about like GitHub Actions and my journey in tech, and I still blog today. Like yesterday, I blogged about code spaces. Um, then I started doing some virtual public speaking. I got a job as a developer advocate from being able to do those Zooms and blogs. I was able to show, I can relay information to people about tech, and it helped me get a job. And then they were like, let's do some public speaking. And I was like, I don't know, I'm kind of scared. But I did a lot of virtual speaking, and it really helped to build up my confidence to the point that I was like, let me start streaming. And I'm scared of streaming. I'm scared of seeing people watch me code. So instead, I bring experts on and I have them explain things to me, and I ask them all the dumb questions. And then I started doing in-person speaking. I built up enough confidence to do that. I'm still a little bit scared, but it allowed me to get a chance to do a keynote. So let's talk about how you can learn in public. And I'll check the time. I think I have like maybe 10 minutes left. Let's see what we could do. So, how can you learn in public? First, my suggestion is to set SMART goals. And if you're not familiar with this acronym, it stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. And the reason I suggest this is because oftentimes we might be like, you know what, I'm going to learn every single programming language and I'm going to do it through blogging, Twitch streaming, every single thing. That's overwhelming. That's a setup for failure and burnout. So instead, I suggest saying something like this. For the specific section, you might say, I'd like to learn CSS to contribute to my team's front end task. And if you're thinking, how do I make it measurable? Maybe I'll stream weekly for 1 hour as I complete a CSS course. And to make it attainable, like how is this something that you think you can really achieve and it's not like overshooting? You can say, I'm already adept at React and Tailwind, so I have knowledge of front end. I'm just not really strong with CSS. And then what makes it relevant to you? Why is this a goal for you? You can say, I'm a mid-level engineer, but I feel inadequate, or I cannot feel like confident advising my junior coworkers on decisions around CSS, or I feel more hesitant to pick up some of those tasks on my team. And then make it time bound. Set yourself a limit of when you're going to look back and say, okay, let me review myself. You can say, in the next 6 months, I want to feel confident writing CSS. I want to feel confident picking up a CSS ticket, and I want to be able to put that on my performance review. Next is identifying what platform you want to use. Again, I don't want y'all to like start picking up every single like platform and getting overwhelmed. Choose one thing. Start with one thing and maybe branch out as you get more comfortable. Choose maybe blogging if you like to write, or contributing to an open source project or maintaining an open source project if code is just your jam and that's all you want to do. If you like video editing and producing, try out TikTok and YouTube. If you just want to put little thought leadership thoughts on the internet, Twitter, Mastodon, or any type of microblogging platform might be for you. Try streaming, try public speaking, or try mob programming. And I'm going to give you a little bit of background on why I added this here. So I actually, before I did this talk, I wrote a blog post of this. So that was me. This is me learning in public about learning in public. I wrote a blog post about how to learn in public. Then I built this stream deck on a Twitch stream, and I learned from the audience about like what other things I can add. And one of the people that were watching, one of the people from the community, their handle is Orlan Mera. They suggested mob programming. They're like, what if the person doesn't want all the spotlight on them? And they don't have to really do it out in public. They can do it at their job. And I was like, that's such a good idea. That's such a good point. They can do mob programming. Through mob programming, which is like a small group of developers working on a task in real time, kind of like peer programming, but with more people, you can learn from other developers about how they make decisions, and it gives you an opportunity to be vulnerable. Again, you can try inviting guests on your stream, like I do for Open Source Friday, and other people do that too, like Jen from Teach Gen Tech, and Jason does that with Learn with Jason. You can also share the stage with people when you do a conference talk. I know Ramon did this because he is an experienced speaker and he wants to give less experienced speakers a chance to do conference talks, but without feeling too scared. Come up on stage with somebody who feels really confident. You can learn from what methods they use to do public speaking, and you can get the chance to do public speaking yourself. Also, try choosing a manageable cadence. Take a look at your schedule and pick a dedicated time to learn in public. But don't do it at an overwhelming amount, and continually review. Like, your life will change. Maybe you got married or got a kid or got sick. Take your time with it. You don't have to do it every 2 days or whatever. You can do it once a week and you can switch it up. Just make sure you keep mental health in mind while you do this. And start posting. Don't wait until you have the perfect camera or the perfect this or the perfect that. People prefer authenticity over perfection. And remember, it's about you learning in public. That's the most important thing. You also want to ignore the numbers. It's hard to, if you look at your blog post or your video and it says one viewer or zero, and you're like, wow, people didn't like that. But remember, you're doing this to learn and build a track record of your progress. Gaining an audience is a bonus. But what you really want is something to put on your resume that says, I started here and now I'm over here. And then continue to improve. And I do this by like occasionally reflecting on my progress. I'll keep all of like the work that I've done in one spot. So I use Polywork to like just check all the stuff that I've been doing. And then I'll occasionally reflect and be like, oh yeah, that's when I was just learning how to do open source. And that's when I was learning to do this. That's always been really helpful for me. And then you want to also look at other people who are learning in public and observe and absorb information from them and be like, how did they do it? How did they approach this? Oh, cool. They broke their blog post up into little bits and pieces so they don't feel overwhelmed and they're writing a 20-minute blog post, like things like that. And then celebrate. Take that necessary time to relax and bask in your greatness. If it was your first stream ever, celebrate. Say, good job, me. Like, buy yourself something nice, go to dinner, whatever. Because learning in public is not the easiest. It can be hard and scary, and you don't want to brush it over and be like, oh, that was whatever. Like, you did it. You did that. And I want to warn you against a couple of things not to do. One is grifting. So if you don't know what that is, sometimes that's like people with very little experience and they're pretending to be experts. And then after they pretend to be an expert, they get all these followers and then they tell these followers, you got to like purchase something from me and then you'll get what you want. So for example, sometimes people say, learn to code in 10 days. And then they get all these followers that come in and they're like, pay me $100 and I'll teach you. First of all, that's not true. You can't learn to code in 10 days. And this is not a good way to learn in public. Be genuine, be authentic, and be real. Like, I don't know how to code, but I'm going to learn how to do this today. Go with that, and you will attract the right people. Also, try not to overshare. It's something that I struggle with as well. As you learn in public, you start to get more comfortable sharing whatever on the internet, but like protect yourself, be good with privacy. You don't have to post when like you broke up with your boyfriend or something like that. And also it could hurt you for like professional reasons, like if they go through your Twitter account or whatever and you're talking about all your personal life, keep it semi-professional. And I want to recap all the things that you can do to start learning in public. Start with making smart goals, identifying your platform, choosing a manageable cadence for yourself. Just start posting. Don't worry about it. Continue to improve and take that time to celebrate. And I want to know from the audience, go ahead and post in the chat. I'll check it in a second. How do you plan to learn in public? I'm still learning in public myself, so I will answer this question too. My goal is to get better at streaming, especially while coding. I always like blank out and get really nervous, but I want to get more confident in that. And that is essentially the end. If you want the slides, I have these QR codes. If you want the blog post, I have a QR code too. but you might not get a chance to scan this, so I'll post it on Twitter and I'll post it in the chat. And I want to say thank you to the You Got This conference, everybody behind it, especially Kevin. Thank you for allowing me to speak, and thanks for setting this up.